Okay. Folks will start to come in just a moment. Hi, welcome everyone.
Hello.
I say everyone, but we're going to give it a minute until folks come in.
So actually, two of these are our students so far.
Oh, okay. We need to move them over.
Okay, so far it's Corey and Jing.
Okay. All right. For those two, I am going to promote you to a panelist.
And Alex good enough.
Okay.
Please, thank you, Molly, so much.
Yeah.
And
so you guys are allowed to talk, but just try to join again as a panelist. That way we have all of our crew here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because we don't need to do that anymore. You can see all of our little faces. And that way, just want to see if Jen's joining this session. But why don't we start with intros? So thank you everybody for coming today. We are in the midst of our graduate open house, which is our premier event because we give you inside access into faculty, students, spaces, and it's really about answering your questions too. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty about curriculum. We have Joanna, we have Suzanne here who's going to give you maybe more information than you bargained for. Says I can't share my video. Corey, why don't you try to go ahead and sign off and then sign back on. I'm going to go ahead in the background and add you as a panelist.
Okay, sounds good.
And Corey, Alex, and Jing. So I have your portion of the presentation. Sorry, everybody's hearing the back end of this. I have your portion of the presentation, and you can just let me know when to advance the slides.
Sounds good.
So the three of you do not need to share your screen whatsoever. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, hang on a second. All right, and I am going to quickly just add a little.
Everybody.
Yeah, is that Alex?
Yeah, it's still not letting me show my video. I'm not sure if Corey's having the same problem.
Here, yeah, let me add you. I'm going to see if Jen can do it from the background. So just give me 1 second. In the meantime, Joanna, Suzanne, you want to start introducing yourselves?
Yep. Actually, I'm going to launch the presentation that includes the introductions, if you don't mind, Molly.
What is it? Sorry.
I'm going to launch my presentation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry, one more thing. Alex and Wansabi, you guys are, or I'm sorry, Corey, you are both panelists. You just have to log on with your RISD credentials. So through your single sign-on, that should work.
Molly, can you make Jing a panelist as well?
You bet. Let me work on that.
So is everybody seeing the correct screen, not my notes?
Yes.
Yeah, that looks beautiful.
All right, everybody. So introduction. So before I go deeper into the conversation and presentation, I want to make some introductions. So my name is Joanna Barthmeyer-Payne. I'm an associate professor and the department head of this landscape architecture department. I am joined by Suzanne Matthew, our incredible graduate program director, also associate professor in the department. And if you are not yet connected to Suzanne or me through your RISD admissions adventure, I encourage you to reach out. We're excited to get to know all of you. And I think through the admissions processes when Suzanne and I and all of the students involved really get to know everybody and, everybody's interests and needs and support. So I encourage you to get in contact with us. If you can visit, awesome. And just to be in contact and to meet. So we're also joined by some amazing students. Corey Watanabe, our RISD ASLA student chapter president. Corey is having issues with his video, but we'll say hi shortly. We're also joined by Alex Goodenough, our RISD ASLA student chapter vice president. You can say hi, but we realize we can't see you.
Hi.
And Jingjing, who represents our graduating class. So thank you all so much for being here and participating in the presentation today. So this is our little video. So RISD's campus is located in the heart of Providence's historic downtown district. While many of RISD's academic buildings are situated along College Hill, its campus is spread throughout the entire city, jointly with Brown University, URI, and Johnson & Wales. So the spirit of our shared creativity can be felt in the mix of contemporary and old structures, as well as the dispersal of disciplines throughout the historic urban context. So as one of the few MLA programs housed in a fine arts institution, the students and faculty in the landscape department at RISD are surrounded by artists and designers that encourage a wide range of media and critical art practices. And we believe that these curricular and physical adjacencies allow us to share a unique approach to landscape architecture and provide opportunities to share our methods with other departments. So what you're seeing in this video, landscape architecture is proudly located at its new home at 159 Way Bassett Street. So if you have a chance to come visit campus, this is where you'll be primarily touring. And with our neighbors in the CIT and Fletcher building, the area creates a really nice active hub for a majority of RISD's grad programs. And our studio space benefits for a direct presence in the city and a short walk to the Providence River and Narragansett Bay and College Hill campus. Also, fun fact, Rhode Island is the ocean state, if you didn't know that, and we have over 400 miles of intertidal coastline. So it's no surprise that a large portion of our curriculum, including our MMA, is focused around cultural ecology and resilience. So I'm going to go through some of our mission and values, just so everybody can get a sense of how we do things, how we do it here at RISD, and how our students like to practice in some student work. So at RISD, we believe that through design, landscape architects can address critical social, political, and ecological issues that are facing the world right now. We help our students explore how the design of landscape addresses the effects of climate change, urbanization, and environmental degradation. So this is work that can facilitate public access to quality open space, but importantly, the knowledge of our natural systems broadly. So the following presentation is meant to introduce everyone to RISD landscape, our core values that uniquely position us as a department in this discipline. So design research, the visceral, sensorial, and physical qualities of a site and its context can be understood through the process of personal exploration and observation. So in our studios and seminars, we prioritize time for immersion, questioning, and research of the cultural and biophysical qualities that make a place feel unique. And in order to design, we must first learn to be curious, observe, and ask questions. And we cultivate both an arts-based practice of exploration and a science-based practice of experimentation. So what you're seeing in this photo is the craziness and the beginnings of a thesis inquiry and our student working through these questions and the tangents, allowing time for these tangents to manifest. We value a deep emphasis on noticing the things around us to inform the critical and analytical research within the design process. And so here you have a Professor Colgate's here out with our students over the summer at Blackstone Park. And we support students understanding what it feels like to touch earth, feel the aspect of a slope, experience scale, understand communities that are not our own, and see natural systems in action. So like hydrology and atmosphere, and to allow yourself to sink into the emotional and material qualities of the space. So this is actually a visitor we had with learning how to use some of our surveying equipment. So students are actually mapping contours into the side of a hill to understand how interpolation actually looks on a slope and how that slope feels as the contours are being mapped. And our students spend a great deal of time seeing and questioning the things that they encounter out in the field or through their research. And here, part of our hydrological systems course, we had students actually kayak the narrow river that they had been using as a precedent throughout the course. So actually seeing the salt marsh, seeing the system in action is an important component of our curriculum. Critical research starts with curiosity and asking questions, of course, of the people and places we encounter, and we investigate practical and material and theoretical ideas iteratively through precedent to explore the extremes of your imagination. And this is through experimentation with our hands in physical ways. The RISD experience is about making relationships between ideas, mediums, and methods to create by hand. And we believe in practices of making that are deeply rooted in material understanding and mechanisms that govern landscape, ecology, tectonics, and social infrastructure. So we really underscore ideas that get made and experimented with in iterative and tactile ways. And we acknowledge that the embodied experience of landscape and the process of our making is gained and gaining new knowledge is the most meaningful aspect of our work. So you're actually seeing the tectonics of a soil profile here. So a student working through abstract models, working through drawing in abstract models to understand these properties of soil and their different layers and horizons. And it's a place where design process and curiosity and risk-taking is prioritized, often over a polished final outcome. Our program bridges intuitive and analytical thinking and encourages hands-on research into material practices and explores opportunities for cross-disciplinary experimentation. So again, co-taught studio, looking at different weaving techniques, live staking weaving techniques, and trying to think of strategies for incorporating this into coastal riparian edges. So lots of workshopping outside. Our students use and hybridize with a range of methods across artistic design practices, as well as across different hand and digital platforms. So we encourage analysis and documentation of change over time that occurs in natural and social environments, as well as testing methods for representing and communicating those dynamics effectively. Again, another co-taught studio along with ceramics. So the studio actually had half ceramic students and half landscape students working together, again, with looking at modules for riparian structures. And we also really value experimenting with tools and materials that aren't typically used by landscape architects to expand the perception and creativity, create perception of creative and objective practices within our discipline. So novel material making, novel means and methods. And so pulling from our 4 main learning sequences: materials, history and theory, communication and visualization, and ecology and hydrology. Students engage a multitude of design methods to conceptualize and create physical spaces that responsibly connect aesthetic values with sustainable ethics. So our program teaches students to translate form, material, and space into experiences that inspire greater connections between communities and their environments. And we combine lots of different hybrid methods of hand drawing with new modes of digital modeling, fabrication, simulation, and animation. And those methods help mediate between the development, implementation, communication of their designs. This is an awesome studio, which is co-taught with Suzanne. Was it the Nature Lab at the moment?
No. It was with Stuart Copeland, who was a graduate of D+M.
Okay, and looking at different. Suzanne, you should give a little synopsis of this because it's so cool.
Well, so the studio was looking at trying to understand if there are ways that we can design tools for both measuring and visualizing atmospheric changes in the environment. And this project specifically was looking at how sound in the environment can reveal changes in material, changes in texture. And so Kurtka, one of the students, designed a portable drawing machine that detected sound through, you can see at the bottom, there's a glove that had rice in it. So it would interact with surfaces, generate a sound and a texture that was then picked up by a sensor, turned into a drawing. So it became a mapping tool.
And which is an ongoing sequence of Suzanne's teaching. Thanks, Suzanne, so much.
Yeah.
So our goal is to provide our students with the design and critical thinking skills needed to address large-scale regional, environmental, and social issues, and how to approach those solutions through concrete action-based solutions at the site and the material scale by understanding diverse social, geographic, and ecological systems. And through our 2 MLA degree programs, students develop their own ethical stance that guides their present and future work, as well as their engagement with the profession and the communities in which they practice. So actually, these 2 examples are co-taught studios that were in partnership with local communities and stakeholders. And we support students in developing skills for placemaking with a focus on understanding the social and economic impacts of their design. So the ethics of inclusion and maintaining a critical perspective on the values embedded in our work. And so graduate education at RISD is structured to facilitate your growth as a designer, artist, and scholar by providing foundational skill and opportunities for pushing the boundaries of what's possible in your chosen discipline. And so, as you saw in my previous slides, there are plenty of experimentation that happens within our core and foundational courses. And that's something that we really very much hold central to our attitude and approach to teaching in the department. And what makes, I think, the institution truly unique. And it's also the commitment that makes to students to support their personal independent journey. So RISD's structure is set up for students to take charge of their education and make it a transformative experience. So within the core studio and seminar sequence, there's opportunities for electives and advanced studios outside of the department. So students have the opportunity for interdisciplinary classes that expose them to new material practices like ceramics or film, furniture, critical contemporary theories in departments like global arts and cultures or nature, culture, and sustainability and liberal arts concentrations. So the cross-disciplinary experiences like these provoke and inspire students to approach their landscape practices in new ways. And actually, this was an elective studio within our department, also from the same course that Suzanne Matthew was mentioning before. And so students are pulling from all of the departments that they've been exposed to at their time to inform not just their thesis work, but their own artistic practices. So as an example, this piece was created through an elective in glass to help support thesis work that questioned issues in dark sky policies and nocturnal habitats. So this is just one of many creative opportunities available for expanding what's possible within your own work in landscape. Last but not least, there's a tremendous opportunity to share the trajectory through the thesis process. The thesis structure at RISD is such that it provides not only the vehicle developed work that contributes new knowledge to the field, but the resources to make it happen. So you have a lot of control over the trajectory of your research and makeup of your thesis committee. So you have primary, secondary, and tertiary advisors. You're given support to meet with those advisors, go visit these advisors, go talk to experts. And we essentially, over the course of a year and a half, have this time and exposure to be able to do these things, as well as the curricular support. And while the RISD MLA has a required core, it's set up to support your individual development as a creative and intellectual agent. Here to provide as many resources and opportunities to be able to do the things that you want to do within this institution, because there's quite a bit more than I am even aware of. And then social impacts and strategies. So I'm not going to get too much into this because we're going to directly following this this webinar open house, we are going to be visited by the URI MMA department head and graduate program coordinator who will be able to walk through some of that information. But so much of what we do as landscape architects and essentially, especially in our department, is to understand and design the future of coastal territories. Remember, we have 400 miles of coastal ecosystems. And it's one of the most important ecologies in the globe. So we try to understand and design the future of coastal territories. And we understood for some time now that we need to strengthen our knowledge and position around the complexities of these landscapes, the social science, regulation, policy, economics, and communications, in order to really evaluate the major issues around our coastal communities, especially in the 21st century. So as we can continue to take action on these significant and uncertain issues involving global climate crisis, the RISD Landscape Architecture Department in 2019 launched a joint degree partnership with the Marine Affairs Department at the University of Rhode Island. So in this joint master's, students develop an analytical, collaborative communication and leadership skills necessary to make theoretical and applied contributions to socially just, ecologically sound, and sustainable human environmental interactions. So the two programs strongly underscore and value design inclusive engagement with government, businesses, professional groups, local communities, historically marginalized groups, and resource users and non-governmental organizations. So like I said, directly following the open house, we'll be joined by Austin Becker, the director of the Marine Affairs Department at URI, to share some more information. And I think the Zoom link is being shared for that meeting in this chat.
Yeah, it's people have already signed up for it because we've posted it, but if you have the link, I can share it in the chat. Actually, you know what? You keep talking. I'll share it in the link.
Okay, or I can after this. So now, enough of me. I'd like to have our students, so we're invited our 3 students to join the meeting today, and I want them to share some of their experiences at RISD. And I love looking at this work over the weekend because it is all so very different, and I think exceptional representation of what our students are doing here. So they're gonna introduce themselves and take it from there. So we have Corey Watanabe, Alex Goodenough, and Jingjing Shui. So thank you all so much. And I first have Corey. So Corey, just let me know when you want to advance.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joanna. So hi everyone, my name is Corey Watanabe. I'm from outside New York City. My second year currently. I'm RISD's ASLA chapter president. Go ahead. So this is just some work from my first year studio called Design Principles. It explores a lot of like temporal conditions as well as like introduces you to all kinds of different media. And I was working for my final project on a kind of like affordable housing zone which like expands topography and integrates increases accessibility to like these natural systems that we're studying. On the next slide, oh, go ahead, Joanna. This is my second year studio. I think one of my favorite things about this program here is the ability and opportunities to experiment. And so for our first project, we had to do this we were able to do this cabinet of curiosity where we were able to kind of explore. Well, our site for that studio was this post-industrial brownfield. And so we were able to kind of explore different phenomena and textures and different just like objects of interest and create this cabinet. And so I utilized the opportunity to explore the site to create a jacket with cyanotype, and I think that was a super fun project as well. And then actually ended up working with Alex on our final project to develop like a studio project around like farming and agriculture and food security. And then next slide. Yeah. So this semester, we also are able to take a plants and botany. And I think for this one, a lot of it is like work in the field, as Joanna was saying. One of my favorite parts about this class is the ability to draw and learn through observation and understanding the systems just like in the field with your sketchbook and drawing, and as well as collecting specimens from the field and pressing them so you're able to reference them in the future.
I love that. Actually, sorry, I just have to call this out because it's such a great herbarium example, but a huge component of the plants, botany, and ecology course is the construction of quite an extensive herbarium that you guys look at, and which is collected from different plant communities out in the field that you guys also visited. Brown University, who we are in partnership with, has quite an expansive herbarium library, which is kind of the most amazing place I've ever seen. So thanks for sharing that. Sorry, I had to interrupt.
Okay. No worries. And then this was like a fun summer opportunity I had, like along with the RISD landscape department, you also have access to the resources at the Nature Lab. And I was able to go on a trip with the Nature Lab this summer where we visited Block Island. It's this like island of like, I think around like an hour. Well, you have to take a ferry, but it's like you have to take an hour drive and then take a ferry to the island. But that we kind of were immersed in the ecosystems that like marshes and sorts of meadows and coastal systems and things of that sort. And we were able to tie forestry crafts and create natural dye textiles and all of it was centered around like painting and observation. So this was a super, I mean, a lot of, like, and you'll find in this program a lot of similar activities as well, but in terms of just like immersing yourself in your environment and studying them through artistic expression and drawing, painting, things of that sort, and just like really, yeah, getting in the mud and the dirt and, you know, learning through that kind of immersive experience in the environment. So thanks, everyone.
Sure. I mean, what's cool about this program, it's hosted through the Nature Lab, but it brings together students from all over the university that share similar interests and are wanting to have the same types of experiences. And so there's a lot of synergies across the campus. And what I think is extraordinary is that we're all considering these different perspectives differently, but it's the coming together and understanding them. And I think out in the field in a place like Block Island with the Nature Lab, that really helps others understand where we're all coming from. Thanks, Corey. So now we have Alex Goodenough. Alex, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Alex from California. Background's in environmental studies and studio art. So I first wanted to share an experience I had this summer as a TA for the summer program, which is Design Foundations in Field Ecology. And Joanna kind of mentioned it a little bit, but it's like a 5-week summer course that really grounds incoming landscape students in the landscape of New England. And this summer we got to go to Maine and stay on a regenerative farm for a few days. And we do a lot of sketching and field study, and it was a ton of fun. Go to the next one. And then this is also about site ecology design. Like Corey had just talked about, we were partners. And I think one of the core concepts for our project was talking about kind of blending the divide between people and nature. And this bottom drawing, Corey and I actually made together, like sitting side by side. But the lanterns on the right were my cabinet of curiosities, and I was trying to choose objects that I found on our post-industrial site, whether they be, you know, bits of roots and leaves or nuts and bolts and wire. And when they're abstracted in a similar like photo exposure type of way, you get to blend those objects, and it becomes harder to tell what's natural and what's not. So it's just kind of these fun things we get to think about in this program that make it special. Go to the next one. And this semester for constructed landscapes is kind of more focused on the urban context. And so I'm also working with Corey on this, but we're talking about developing a framework plan for the west side of Providence. And this is historically Black and Hispanic community. And just one of our concepts is basically just trying to think about informal passageways between these different blocks that can tie together green spaces while retaining the cultural context of this community. Go to the next one. And then lastly, just a little bit about the ASLA experience that that we've been having this year. So yeah, I have the extreme honor of being the ASLA vice president for the RISD chapter this year. And it's just an incredible experience being able to tie the different cohorts together and help everyone bond. We serve to have like professional events that tie RISD to the broader professional landscape community. But in addition to that, I think it's also important that we have these social events like this apple picking event on the left, or like pumpkin carving we just did a couple weeks ago, which help bond everybody in the program. And it's been really, really fun, and feel, yeah, a lot of honor about it. Yep.
Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it. So our last student, Jing, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jingjing Cui, and I come from China. I'm a final year grad student of MLA 2 program. And the first one I'm going to share today is the Urban System Studio, which is the final core studio of our program. The studio was focusing on the complex system of the East Providence, and we explore different strategies and proposal to allow both ecological and cultural system to flourish. And I think I learned a lot from this studio, particularly about the system thinking. And we also analyze the issues like the environmental injustice, degradation of the local neighborhood, and the gentrification and sea level rise, and so on. So we also make a chipboard scaled model and to test our idea on the physical model, because sometimes the physical model will show the different quality of the material and maybe can give our some inspirations to come up with the different proposal and solution. Go to the next one. And then this studio is the advanced studio I took this semester. So we are right now at phase 2. And this studio is focusing on how we perceive and the change in the landscape, and also trying to translate it into a visual language. And what intrigues me about this studio is about the time, and also we're trying to capture the beauty of the landscape in different time scale. And for example, like the collage of the on the right that I made I'm trying to mimic the change of the river shaped by water, and that really intrigues me to do more, and also exploring about the change, and also like the human scale on the right, and to see some hidden force within the motion. And okay, go to the next one. Yeah, and the next one, I'm going to share 2 of my elective experience at RISD. The first one is kind of like a game design with Unity 3D. So this studio, at this course, we make like 2 games. One is the 2D game and one is a 3D game. And we also have some experience to do some C# coding within the Unity 3D, and to do some like controller and also tracking, player tracking, and etc. Yeah, next one. And the final elective I took is the jewelry introduction this semester. And right now I did like, I have some experience about some basic skill of handmade jewelry, like annealing and soling and drilling and polishing, etc. And also I took this course at the jewelry department, so it's a good opportunity to meet other students or from other department and to learn what they did. And this is really good experience. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. They're beautiful. So with that, I think we can end the presentation now. Molly, we have about a half an hour for questions. Is that right?
Yep. They can either ask the questions in the Q&A function, or they can just raise their hand and we can unmute them so they can ask us live.
Great.
So guys, feel free to ask them if you don't want to, call out in the Q&A. Just don't ask your questions in the chat, because sometimes those get lost. But questions like that came up the last session we did were like, what are the opportunities? What do alumni do for work afterwards? Of course, internship opportunities, projects on the periphery of the coursework, right? So like, I don't have any good examples because I'm not in landscape architecture. I'm a painter. But yeah, like all the different resources, how you're using sort of the museum or the nature lab, really anything like that.
And this can be for this can be for Suzanne and I, this can be for the students.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody.
Last time, a lot of the questions were for the students. So please, anything.
Yeah, all you got to do is raise your hand, and I will allow you to raise your virtual hand, and I will allow you to talk in the attendee list. Oh my gosh, there's no MLA.
I mean, I guess, oh, here's one. And then if we can go back and talk about some of the curriculum. So this is a great question and a common one. So I have completed a 5-year bachelor in architecture. This will allow me, advanced placement pathway? So I prefer 2 years of a landscape program, and I'd really love to study at RISD. So typically that is the baseline qualification, is to have either a 5-year BLA or a 5-year BARC, or sorry, BLA or MLA, excuse me. And that will typically put you into advanced placement. There's other factors. So for example, if you do have the BLA or BARC or BLA, excuse me, oh my gosh, my acronyms are getting all confused.
5-year BARC, because there's also a 4-year. Yeah.
5-year BARC and 5-year BLA. And, you know, upon reviewing your applications and meeting with you and interviewing and chatting, you know, our foundations years 1 and 2 are, and our thesis are rigorous. It's a rigorous curriculum. And we want to ensure that students feel prepared for their thesis year. So not just in terms of skill, right? Like our hand, digital and physical skills, but critically and understand the multitude of systems that go into landscape design of any scale or any sort. And so there are in a few cases where we have the 5-year undergrad programs, student application that we feel isn't exactly prepared to go into that thesis year, and we'll offer the 3-year program. But in most cases for an MLA 2s, in most cases, it's usually they'll go into advanced standing. I hope that clarifies the question.
I think actually, you know, what we should do is answer the question on the flip side too, of the MLA 1 and those sort of prerequisites, right? If any.
Yeah. So, and Suzanne, please step in. So Suzanne and I tackle admissions together, but Suzanne has a lot of the information, a lot more of the current information on admissions than I do. So please step in, Suzanne. But typically our 3-year MLA 1 students are coming from all walks of life, music, business, humanities, you name it, are coming from all over sciences. Some come from fine arts, some do come from different design practices or design disciplines. But that 3-year program is really meant to prepare students through the 1st and 2nd year core studios and seminars to practice in this discipline, whatever that means for them. But for us to know that, like I said, for the flip side of the question, you know, the technical skills, but also the critical thinking and critical inquiry skills. And so, you know, you've heard from our students what they were doing in their undergrads, which I think is extraordinary. I think coming from different backgrounds actually helps to strengthen the cohorts and strengthen the way that they're practicing and developing ideas and developing design, and developing their path here.
And I'll add one thing, which is that the 3-year students and the 2-year students all start in the same way. So everyone starts at the summer session, and then everyone takes the first design principles studio. And so the reason for that is that we feel that the approach at RISD is specific. So even if you have a background in architecture or landscape architecture, there's an emphasis on making that we find most of our incoming students haven't had. And so everyone starts in the same place, and then they diverge in the 2nd semester of the 1st year.
Right, exactly. These 2 questions are actually, they're related.
Yeah.
Related. We'll cover each separately, but I think that they have, I think our answer will tackle both. So will there be any courses focusing on data representation or digital modeling of any type? So I'm going to let Suzanne talk, because I think that her focus in her own practice, but also her teaching is relevant to this question. But just to say that, so we do have a representation 1, representation 2 course that focus on digital programs. We do have a emphasis on hybridization. So how do you hybridize digital programs, your work in digital programs, with hand modeling and hand drawing? But we do have courses that are specific to this. We also have actually we have 4 electives this year that are all based on GIS systems, computation, analytical mapping. Actually, we have an exciting one this winter session that is teaching students. They'll be looking at urban forestry as the prompt, so urban forestry in New York City, and looking at ways of combining GIS typical, can find on the internet GIS layers with other layers of information and combining them using Python, GIS, Rhino. The idea is that the outcome of the course, you will have a physical artifact of this mapping and layering, but it's meant to be argumentative. That's just one example. In the spring, we're offering another pretty advanced GIS course that will also look at different programming techniques. But I do want to emphasize that I think even, and Suzanne, the examples that I showed of your course in the presentation, I think are really nice examples of how we take computation, visualization, and developing argumentative patterns and geography and mapping, and to expose those arguments, expose that thinking in physical form and physical making. So I'll let you.
Yeah. I mean, I think one way to approach the question is to say that, we introduce you to a wide range of tools at RISD. Some of them will be analog and disciplinary. Some of them will be digital and disciplinary. So working in everything from AutoCAD to GIS to Rhino, and everyone will get a baseline introduction to that. But I think, where there's a lot of unique offering at RISD is then where you can build on that either within the department through electives. So as Joanna's mentioned, we've had a number of electives in the past and also this year that will introduce programming, will introduce working with Arduinos, will introduce working with parametric modeling programs, but also, and you heard this in the student presentations, there are a lot of opportunities to expand that skill set outside of the department. So taking classes in computation, in web-based modeling, and in working with electronics, like all of it's available, and also from different disciplinary approaches, whether it's digital plus media, or from film, or from animation, or from architecture. Like there are a lot of options. Specifically to answer this question, there's also a question about data viz. And we've had electives in the past that look at data representation, but also, there are a number of classes you can take through graphic design, through industrial design, or through the nature lab that also offer that. So there are a lot of options for, and also for introducing digital processes into your toolkit, and analog processes. So whether it's working in glass or ceramics, really there's a lot that's available.
But I want to emphasize that while, we host at the institution, and our department host an array of different courses, like Suzanne was saying, that help to foster the different types of making that our students want to do. And so there's not one right way or wrong way of making and having these things infiltrate into your process during studios. So our students are practicing in all different ways. If we have a student that is especially interested in Rhino and parametric modeling, that is supported, absolutely. If we have a student that is primarily focused on painting or ceramics or glass, that is highly supported. So I think both are supported within the department.
Yeah. Just say there's like a part B to the second question that's related, which is how is skill building like software? What is skill building like with the software you focus on? Everyone is introduced in the first, I'd say, year and a half to a basic set of digital skills across the Adobe suite, in Rhino and GIS. And often it's introduced as a workflow. So first, how do you use this program? Second, how do you use this program in conjunction with other programs, and move back and forth, and then also introduce your hand. Relative to either questions that you'll be investigating in your studios, or workflows that allow for some experimentation in landscape.
And then after that, I think it's up to students to really interrogate those programs and those workflows as, you know, taking courses across the campus if they think that that's necessary, or practicing them on their own within their own studio courses and seminars. So they're offered as separate seminar workshop courses.
Joanne, do you want to go to the next question about ecology-based courses?
Yeah, I'll read the question out loud. So can you speak a bit more about the ecology-based courses in the curriculum, and how information from these technical courses is integrated into the studio and design projects? So in our department, we have a few ecology-based courses, and then as you saw, like Corey taking a summer intensive in Block Island with the Nature Lab. So there's other ecology courses offered outside of the program in the institution, and then through Brown, and then of course URI. So in our first year, students take, so not only in the summer, they take the 5-week intensive, which is called Field Ecology and Design Principles. And that is purely field based. We do a very small mapping introduction in the final 2 weeks, but that is based on what has been observed in the field. And that course, you are joined by experts, all, you know, tons of faculty, but also each field trip and each workshop lecture is joined by an expert in that particular. So if we're talking about salt marshes, we had the baykeeper joining us, salt marsh ecologist and baykeeper, for example. And then in the fall semester, students take plants, botany, and ecology. And actually, Alex and Corey are both in that course right now. And that introduces students broadly to plant communities through a number of different techniques. So they look at, you know, they spend a lot of their class time outside visiting different sites. They're understanding plant communities. So not necessarily rote memorization of individual plants and species, but how plant communities can inform human impact, ecological impact, but influence successional patterns. They're also visiting the herbarium, and then you guys do. I'm like, I'd really love to hear what you guys are doing. A lot of different programming this semester, and then in their second year, they take plants, form, and space. Actually, I skipped over one. So in the spring of the first year, you're taking hydrological systems, which is an ecological planning course. In that course, you're learning all about different environmental paradigms, historical paradigms, and how they fit into our most recent paradigm, anthropogenic paradigm, and then also skill building techniques on, you know, very basically sizing green stormwater infrastructure systems, how to design green infrastructure systems, learning from ecological planning references, and that ties directly with their studio projects that semester, and I would hope beyond. So how do these nature-based solutions play a part in the way that, in the role of their design in site ecology design and constructed landscapes and thesis? And then in the second year, plants, form, and space, and that's where students start to take some of these techniques, learning from, you know, less managed natural systems that they're seeing out in the world, and understanding how they can be shaped and designed into public space and creating experience through those shaping. So those are some of the courses that we offer in our class, I mean, in our department, but like I said, there's a host of others throughout the university in Brown. And Nature Lab, I know that a lot of our students work at the Nature Lab and participate in Nature Lab programming as well.
Joanna, we have a couple questions for the students, which I think it'd be fun to throw it over to them.
We should let them talk. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one that's for all of the students, which is I'd be interested to know why you chose RISD over other MLA programs. So you guys can decide who wants to go first and just unmute yourself.
And I would just add that only feel free to share what you like. You don't have to elaborate with anything that you don't want to. because this session is recorded, just FYI. And you'll get waivers too, don't worry.
I mean, I can, oh, Gigi.
No, you can go first. Yeah.
I went to a liberal arts undergrad and studied studio art and environmental studies, but was always interested in design. And I think coming from a studio art major where I was working with conceptual art, sculpture, these kinds of things, it was really a priority for me to be at an art school. And I think RISD is the only accredited landscape architecture program at an art school. So I think for me, thinking about that interdisciplinary aspect was the priority, and that's what RISD has. So this is where I came.
Oh,
Sorry. Do you want to go first?
Oh, me? Okay. Yeah, similar to Alex, and so just like the interdisciplinary aspect. I think I came to RISD almost like 6 months after I graduated from undergrad, was in the middle of the pandemic. But I think a big decision for me was like I was already fascinated by this field, but I ended up talking to a lot of faculty and reaching out to different schools I applied to, and then just like hearing back, and I feel like of all the schools, the faculty here just felt, I felt supported. I feel, and I still feel to this day, just very like I think they truly care about like our experience here and the education we get about it and our personal interests and just like us as people. And so, I think the community and environment that's being built and nurtured here is like really something that I felt stood out in terms of just because it's a very intensive program, but there's like a great support system here, which I really appreciate. So that was a big thing for me.
As for me, I really like RISD because I really like doing some physical models, and also the RISD, they got like lots of opportunity to do this within our program. And then also I got some opportunities to do other like program and like from other departments. So like jewelry and also or maybe ceramic and other program. So I feel like it is really a good school to go to, and I right now really enjoy to study here, to have different experiments.
Thank you, Jingjing. I think that all of you are kind of touching on the same thing. There's a lot of opportunities here, whether they're in our department or outside of our department. Actually, one other opportunity that I think it's for you, Alex. I don't know if you see this question, but what was your experience in doing TAs? So I think all of you, or I mean, I know specifically that Corey and Alex have a number of assistantships at the moment. And what's your experience in managing course flow? What was your experience in doing the TA? They're speaking to the one in the summer specifically, but what was your experience? And I know that you were also working you were working at an office over the summer too, Alex.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the benefits of having a job in the department, being a TA, there are a lot. Number one, like getting to know your fellow students and your faculty better is great. Like creating bonds between the different cohorts, I think, is really important. And you don't really get to do that as much unless you're a TA or unless there's like specific events facilitating those bonds. So as a TA currently, I'm the TA for material logic. So I get to go on field trips with the first years and talk to them. I get to basically learn everything they're learning during the field trips, which is awesome because I get a refresher on what I learned last year. And I think regarding the workload, I mean, I think there's always going to be, like, you always have to make your priorities. And I think like having a TA position, every faculty I've worked with is super understanding about like your schoolwork comes first. If you're overwhelmed, you can put your other work aside until you're ready to kind of get back. And yeah, Joanna was super accommodating this summer because I had an opportunity to work for eponymous practice, a local landscape architecture firm. And so I actually worked part-time as a TA and part-time at the office. So I got both experiences this summer. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity and everyone's really flexible. So it's totally manageable.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I put in some community stories of some of those examples of like the Hyundai Collaborative, the Grad Show, all of the different ways that we connect as a community. Some of them you have to force to make happen, but some of them happen organically as well. So I just put a link there. And thank you, Johanna, for posting that again. Yeah, so the next event, we only have 4 more minutes left, but the next event, you do need to register for it to get the Zoom link to get over there. So we're posting it again and again and again. If you want to learn more about the MLA and the MMA joint program with URI. But yeah, is there anything? I don't know if there's anything else, Susan?
Yeah, I just want to throw in, there were a couple of questions we didn't get to answer out loud, but we did type in answers. And so in the Q&A, it just shows up under answered, typed in. I think some of those questions might be relevant to a few of you. So the answers are there.
Yeah, there was one interesting question, is if we do have 4 minutes left, thank you. There was one interesting question from about more interdisciplinary methods of approaching the degree program. It was someone from the Bartlett. I don't know if I saw you answering it, Suzanne, so I don't know if you.
Yeah, so here, let me read Julie's question. The question is, can I ask if it would be acceptable at RISD to approach landscape design in a more effective or conceptual direction? For instance, using figurative drawing, painting to work through ideas relating people and landscape. So basically what I'm saying in the answer is yes, absolutely. I think all of our studios begin with some form of a conceptual approach. And then some of our later studios, especially elective studios, start to look at both affective, emotional, and sensorial approaches to the landscape. Because I'm sensing in this question also a question about sort of the freedom of mode of exploration. I think what we're really interested in here is hybridizing modes of exploration. So, whether you're coming in with an interest in these types of approaches or you develop them by taking classes outside of the department at RISD, so painting, for instance, or glass or ceramics, by your third year, we're really, open to and excited for those to start to enter the way that you approach landscape questions. But I want to make sure that's clear that we do also, because it's an accredited degree program in landscape, expect those to be integrated with, the more disciplinary approaches.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I just wanted to remind you again that this is recorded, pending. We'll get in touch with the students, you guys, to make sure you're comfortable with that. But click the link, head on over and register for the next session. It will happen very much like this one. You'll get a little ticker that says, hey, we're about to start. They'll start the session and onwards you go.
Thank you so much, all. We appreciate your time. Thank you, students, Alex, Jinjin, Corey. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
We'll see you soon again.